What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast presented by Real GM. My name is Slice, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, as always, Coke, Jim, and Kyle. Also with us tonight again is our executive producer, Moo. The Knicks dropped their third straight game tonight, falling 99-86 to the Mavs and under 500 to 24-25 for the season. The crowd started off loud early on, as we would against KP, letting him know how New York really feels about him. We got in his head a little bit, saw him airball, shot, was missing all over the field. And the first quarter itself was pretty back and forth as the Knicks ended up 25-22 off of a strong 5 for 11 from deep. The second quarter started off as the Obi Toppin show. He started off with 9 points, including a nice emphatic putback dunk, as the Knicks used a 15-3 run to jump to a 13-point lead. But then the Mavs took advantage of a 12-0 run. I think the Knicks are scoreless for 6 straight minutes to eventually get back in it and went into the half up 49-46. Luka was the leading scorer for the Mavs at the break with 12, along with 5 rebounds and 3 assists, while Alec Burks was really the only Knick with the knack with 11 points heading into the third. In the third, there was a few runs from both teams early on. The Knicks jumped out to a 3-point lead. The Mavs turned it around to go up 8 before Julius Randle scored 5 straight points to end the quarter to cut it to a 72-69 deficit. The fourth quarter was just straight awful, to put it nicely, for the Knicks. After staying within 5 early on, they went on a hard cold streak, starting the quarter 1 for 12, missing 11 straight at one point, and were just a step slow defensively. The Mavs pushed the lead to 15 when around the 3-minute mark and didn't look back, ended the game with a 13-point win. Like I said, the Knicks were in it for about 3.5 quarters before they just fell apart at the end. This is a matchup Knicks fans always get up for, but we were all left disappointed. I don't have much more to really say about it. Coke, I'll swing it over to you for your thoughts to start.
Yo, man, you just got to address the elephant in the room. And I think that the point of the season that we're in is we're hitting a bit of a wall. I think the minutes have clearly caught up to the team. Everyone has dead legs. I mean, it's epitomized in the shots. I mean, look at everyone's shots. They're shooting short. Randall is way off ever since the All-Star break. RJ's had a last, terrible kind of last couple of games, and IQ is off as well. And then you got Rose. He's coming off of COVID. He's back in the lineup, and he's just throwing up brick after brick, and he can't convert inside. I just think the guy's legs just don't have it anymore. That was the main criticism with Coach Tibbs coming in when he got the job. The main thing is everyone was afraid he would affect the development of the younger players. I can't agree with that all the way across the board. I think he does trust young players that, he takes a liking to. But I think the more detrimental area has definitely been the minutes. It's taken its toll. At this point, I don't know when these guys are going to get their second win or if they will, coming off this COVID pandemic and the whole season's condensed. So, who knows where we go from here. I just hope we have enough gas in the tank to get us, through this last stretch of games and into the playoffs where, we can at least make a decent showing. Jim, give me your thoughts on this, man.
If there wasn't copyright issues, I would love to play Till I Collapse by Eminem, because that's what I kind of feel like we're doing right now. We're definitely collapsing back down to the norm. Tonight kind of looked like the team I expected the team to look like coming into the season, not after how many X amount of games that we've played in now. It's just ugly. Like, nobody can hit shots. Nobody can really get to the rim. Like, KP kind of locked down the paint a little bit. I mean, he blocked a few RJ shots. He blocked a few Randall shots. I mean, Randall just hasn't looked the same at all since he bruised his thigh or whatever. It's just been real ugly basketball. And it kind of stinks that we clearly needed Marcus Morris, because he was the one that just beat up the Mavericks last year, and it's like we clearly missed somebody that needed to hit shots. Like, it was a completely embarrassing offensive performance.
So before I get into my thoughts on the game, I got a serious question I got to ask Coke. So tell me, have you been wearing this mask every time we've done the podcast? Because if you haven't, I'm going to be disappointed, man. I feel like you have to get in character every time.
I don't know how far you got back, but just call me the dude from Fat Albert. You know what I'm saying? Straight up.
What's a Fat Albert?
Oh my God.
It's an older guy.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling I was going to go over Kyle's head.
We got a minor on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but I like just started after I just saw the Snyder Cut. I've been watching the Justice League cartoon, and I've been trying to find the Super Friends because it's like I want to see that, like the 1950s cartoons. So it's just like anything to throw Kyle off on any other weird references that we could possibly
Yeah.
have.
So I do know who Fat Albert is. The only reason I know that is because of the early 2000s Fairly Odd Parents special where they like use the remote to go into the TV, and he goes back and meets Fat Albert. That's the only reason I know who he is. But
didn't Kenan Thompson do a movie in like the mid-aughts? Like, didn't they like make a live action?
They
There
did,
was.
yeah.
oh yeah.
They
I didn't
did,
see.
yeah.
I didn't see it, but I think I
It wasn't
know what happened.
worth seeing. So.
That was like,
but
that was like 2005, man.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's how
wasn't worth
torturous
seeing.
this-
You know,
that's
you
how-
could
That's
You
how
could say that
torturous
about
this
the next
was.
game.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how torturous this game was. I'd rather talk about live action Fat Albert movies than this basketball game.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, yeah, this one was painful, man. Like you say, we just couldn't score, and that's the whole thing. Is like I can't even really put it on Tibbs at that point because like nobody was playing good. Like even like rode out Burks to the end. He was the only one playing halfway decent, but he couldn't even keep it up at the end. So it's like nobody's playing good. I can't even fault Tibbs for that. I mean, I can say I think it might be that he has overplayed guys this so far this year, but other than that, like this loss just is everybody sucked, and that's about it. But that's enough from me. Moo, tell me what you think.
Yeah, you know what I think is happening. I mentioned it early in the season is they expend so much energy on defense. I think I'm with Coke. I think it's just wearing, right? It's not just the minutes; it's the amount of energy they have to stop the other team, and the amount of energy they have to expend to actually score, right? Nothing comes easy. Even their defense, which has been great, you could tell it's kind of herky-jerky-ish, right? And their offense is really, we're seeing what happens when you don't have a real point guard, someone that can create easy shots, someone that could get into the lane. I mean, all the guys that the Knicks have, they try, right? We see them trying. It's just they're not good enough. They're not skilled enough in doing that. Rose, honestly, he may be heading on his last legs at COVID. Okay, but honestly, he's not looked good. Randall, yeah, I mean, it could be the legs, but honestly, I mentioned it in the last game. You're seeing a lot of bad Randall moves, right? Struggling, heads down. I don't know. I don't know what they can do to improve. There's no help on the horizon, right? It's bad when you're hoping, and I'm screaming for Obi to come back into the game. Right? That's how bad it was, right? Bring Obi back, man. I don't know. I think at one point I was even hoping for Alfred to come back. It was that bad.
That fourth quarter.
I don't know.
That fourth quarter was awful. I mean, that was really it. It was at that point, I never want to see Elf come back, and I probably still didn't want to see Elf. But I mean, my slice out the box tonight is that 9 for 41 shooting performance from our so-called big three. We got Julius and RJ. You want to include Rose as a third best player. 9 for 41 is just not going to cut it. The only redeeming quality from those guys was Julius getting 11 assists, which I didn't even notice because there was a lot of ISO ball from the team, which I thought, the Mavericks had some good possessions in the second half with the ball movement, players running without the ball. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the Knicks were stagnant. And I feel like the Mavs threw them off in the beginning. They played that little bit of zone, then switch back to man, switch back to zone, and the Knicks just had no idea what to do. And again, to your point, Moo, if you don't have a good point guard or a point guard that really knows how to distribute the ball and set up the team, it's just not going to lead to any wins, man.
Right.
Well, so much of our offense is just like here's a screen, create off the bounce. Here's a screen, create off the bounce. There's no I brought this up before. There's nobody that runs off screens. There's no backdoor plays. There's no that hammer, that one Spurs play where they run Patty Mills to the corner off a back screen. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. And it's maybe there's nobody that on the roster that can really do that. But it's just to spice it up a little bit. It's run Bullock off a screen. Don't do a dribble handoff or whatever. We need some sort of variation because there's the only play is Randall or RJ create off the bounce, and it's that's taxing. especially when we're like known as a defensive team.
It's good that you brought up the offense being, so stagnant and basic, because I think in the beginning of the game, we were just playing off of like raw emotion.
Yeah.
I like what I saw. Salute to the Garden crowd. You know what I'm saying? They tried to boo KP out of his jersey every time they touched the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And letting him have it, and it's well deserved. I was getting kind of nervous because I know there's a certain like contingent of the New York fan base where they're kind of quiet about it, but they kind of really want to see KD and Doncic do well. You know what I'm saying? And if the Knicks win, it's like a byproduct. It's like that's the secondary fact. But I'm glad that
it's go root for Dallas then.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I said they can go root for Dallas then. You want to see
Word.
KP and Luka do well? Just go wear a Mavs jersey.
Super facts. So I'm still glad that there's some real vitriol from a large portion of the fans who are not trying to hear that. But back to the offense. We were hitting shots early. We were looking like we were going to make it a game. And I think that's more based off of emotion. When you charged up, you're feeding off the crowd. And I think, as you get into the meat of the game, into the mud, as other people say, that's when your conditioning or lack thereof is going to show up. And I think that's where we're showing that we don't have much gas in the tank, because lately we're seeing a lot of like ugly fourth quarters, no ball movement. Like Jim said, guys are not cutting, and you're not going to cut when you don't got the legs, the legs to get by your man, or, to get that little push off move and then cut back door. So, we're seeing that. So I think these guys are tired. I would have liked to see some things addressed at the deadline, and, it didn't happen. So we're not getting that surge, from some energy from a big acquisition.
And I think, and again, you have to bring it back to Tibbs and how he coaches, because, I know that we all like to make fun of Obi, right? And he had a pretty decent game today, probably one of his better ones of the season, but he only played 11 minutes. And so when
he had a good quarter.
Yeah.
He didn't play much else, right?
Best minutes of the season too.
Yeah.
No reward whatsoever.
Yeah. It's less about the reward. It's more about the fact that Randall has been tired for the last few games. Like, you can physically tell, and you can tell that the bruise he got, that's still bothering him, even if it's a little bit. Credit to him for toughing it out. I'm not gonna say anything bad about him for that, but Tibbs has to realize, hey, I can't be playing Randall 38, 40 minutes a game this late in the year. So
did Obi do anything tonight? Did Obi do anything tonight to get pulled in the fourth?
Not really.
Just
No. And so this is my fun fact, but something I noticed was if you look at who's leading the league in minutes, it's Randall by over 30 minutes over Jokic, and he's played one less game than Jokic. So that's just how many minutes he plays is just insane. And that's really starting to catch up to him now, I think.
I mean, let's hope that's the situation and it's not like a regression. You know what I mean? Like, that's always been my biggest fear about Randall is that is this like Randall like an aberration, or is this like him from here on out? I'm hopeful because he went I think like 1 of 7 from 3 tonight. That I'm hoping that it's tired legs plus an injury, because it's like if he's not this from now on, that puts us that's a big step back for us.
I would be interested in seeing someone pull up some numbers on, Randall's free throw attempts after the All-Star break. I'm pretty sure, just going off the eye test, that the numbers are down as far as free throw attempts.
Yep.
Kyle, you do that, since I'm scared to open up any other windows on my computer right now. Just screw up.
Kyle already cracked his fingers. Kyle's cracking his fingers, getting ready to look that up. But he only had 3 free throw attempts tonight. Burks had 4. Nobody really should. We only took 10 free throws. Luckily, this is a game where the team actually hit them all. But the only thing Randall really brought tonight was his passing, and that's really 11 assists. Really, 11 of our 18. Lou, I think you said it. We need a point guard if Julius Randle is the only one on this team getting assists. Pate Elf had 1, Bullock had 1, Rose had 4, and Burks had 1. Other than that, nobody else decided to distribute the ball, and it's just frustrating to see.
Look at our point guards, man. It's crazy. Quickly again, 0 assists. Derrick Rose, what? All right, he had 4. But still, Peyton 1. So Let's pretend for a night that Derrick Rose is the shooting guard. You got 1 assist between Peyton and Quickly. That's terrible, man. If this front office does not address the point guard issues on his team in the draft or through trade, then I don't know what to say at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, zero from RJ is no good either. I mean, he's like At least at Duke, they let him play point at some times, and he was pretty good at it. Not great, but like his big billing that he was a big playmaking wing, and his
Yeah.
up till tonight.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, this team might be Phil Jackson's dream, because I think they're more geared towards the triangle than the Phil Jackson teams that he put together, right?
Well,
because you've got to.
Why don't we see Randall in the pinch post ever?
Yeah,
That was like Noah's bread and butter, and on those Bulls teams. Like, where's that action? Give me something, run somebody off a screen, please, anybody.
So I got those numbers you asked for, Coke. So when you look at his free throws per game, they've gone down a little bit. So he was averaging a little over 5 per game before the All-Star break, now down to 4. But the real number is, if you look at what percent of his points come from the free throw line before the All-Star break, it was up at around 21%. So now after the All-Star break, it's under 16%. So he is getting to the free throw line a bit less, not a ton, like not as much as I thought it'd be, but less than he used to. And like I know you talked about he's doing less bully ball, and you can absolutely see that he's settling for way more jumpers now.
Yep.
And I think that's part of it, is that he was hitting those jumpers early on. I think part of that might have been that he was setting that up with the fact that he was driving to the rim and bullying people, and now you got to account for that. So he hits you with a jumper, but now he's not doing it so much. You really only have to defend the jumper. So I think, he's just tired. I think that's all it comes down to at this point.
So follow-up question, is it out of the realm of possibility to think that this guy's playing hurt? We know that Warriors, and we know Randall is a Warrior from the way he works out in the gym and he keeps his body in condition. They rarely want to admit when they're in pain. Do you guys think that he's really still hurting from the thigh contusion?
I think he's hurting more than he's letting on.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yep.
Because he's not even attacking.
Physically.
He's not
just not there physically the way he's been. Yeah.
Because
that's all it is.
How often would he put up 7 threes in a game, unless he was hitting them? I feel like not too often. Usually he only puts shots up like that if he's on fire. And tonight he was just kind of like chucking. He was just like standing on the perimeter and throwing up junk. I mean, we pretty much everybody was throwing up garbage, so it's not even really to take shots at him. But
I gotta put on my, speaking of throwing up junk, I gotta put on my Homer Scully for a minute, or ski mask, whatever you want to call it. Because look, man, I know people love Doncic, but the guy's a chuck, man. First of all, I loved it when he airballed the free throw.
Yeah, it made me really happy.
Yeah, that was my, that was my moment. But a second moment is like, he's at the top of the key. He's going, between the legs on an ISO, and he just chucks up like a Obi Rainbow 3 that banks itself in.
I know.
Then he wants the front with the smile and the hands up, like he knew it was like, come on, man. Get out.
That was a backbreaker too. That really deflated me.
That hurt.
Part of that was. No, go ahead, Jim.
I spent basically the whole second half trying to make sure that I can get the stream going, and I look up and that's like the first thing I see is like him hit some crazy bank 3. I'm just like, that's it. If I could turn this off, I would.
I mean, he chucks, but they go in. So that's what it is. He's really good.
You have to give him credit, because that team, if you take him off of it, that's a crap team.
Lottery
That's
team.
a bad
That's
team.
a lottery team.
That's awful. But he's got him 26 and 21.
You know who impressed me though? You know who impressed me?
Mm-hmm.
Worldwide West and Leon Rose's boy's son. I'm talking about Brunson.
Yeah,
that's the point guard, man.
He's good.
Yeah, he was good.
Give me him.
Oh, I would love to take him off the hands. He hit some shots that were backbreakers.
He made some hustle plays too. I mean, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He was all over the box score and just all over the court tonight. He's been. I mean, I've had him on my Bath team for a little bit as my point guard, and I've always followed Mavericks box scores. That's what he does, man. He comes in, he grabs the boards as a point guard, dishes it out, and he only took 2. He takes the shots that he needs to take. I think he just hit 1 3, corner 3, which was again one of those backbreakers, and he just made those momentum momentum plays and hustle that the Knicks just, Jalen Brunson would be the best point guard on the Knicks roster right now, to be honest, right?
That ain't saying much.
That ain't
Well, I
saying
don't
much,
know.
but it's true. It's
I don't know.
true.
Pre-COVID Rose might give him a run for his money, but post-COVID
But
Rose,
right now, we're talking right now.
Well,
Yeah.
Shit, you might as well bring his pops, Rick Brunson, back.
That's what I was going to say. The front office, they got to holler at Rick and say, yo, get your son over here, man. We need him in New York.
Seriously.
Yep.
And we need something.
Kyle, do you know Rick Brunson?
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I feel like Luka's like crazy step backs like look more ridiculous than like a Harden or like a Dame Lillard step back. I don't know what it is about it, but it looks like way less coordinated for some reason.
Because he's fat.
He's just jerky.
That's why it's like even
fat song.
like there was one or two step backs that he hit tonight that just were like extra deflating because they just looked ridiculous. Like when Dame does it, it's like so like finesse and like on precision, and like his is like kind of like sloppy and goofy, and his like arms are flailing everywhere. Like I don't know, I feel like they like
It looks like a typical
ridiculous.
Euro step back versus versus kind of a more skilled, fluid athlete. I guess you can compare it. But I mean, Luka's a baller.
Yeah.
You
so
talk
good.
about how ugly his shots are. He's a baller. 26, 8, and 7. He's able to. I think Clyde said it. The way that he moves, kind of that herky jerky movement that we're talking about, keeps the defenders who are somewhat good defenders, like off their base of center and off their feet a little bit, to give him that little bit of crease that he gets, and just it's just tough, man. It was just what you see when you see a talented player out there. But yeah, without that team is trash.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll
or without that player, that team is trash.
I'll take off my homer hat for a minute and just give him some props. I think the reason he's so effective, he's a tall guy. He's like 6'7", 6'8". But then, as I said, he's kind of thick, so he got some size and strength on him. But he dribbles really low. And, he keeps that low dribble. You can't take the ball from him. You can't knock him off balance. You can't really, get physical with him. And he'll go right by you. Then he's shifty as well. So, he got a lot of things working for him. I'm just hating, but, shout out to Luka, man.
It's an easy game to hate after, man. We were in it, and then just that fourth quarter, that got everybody down. But
yeah, he's got that game where like you can like hear him saying like, I'm gonna go here. This is my spot, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like he just has that sort of game to him. Like I know there are some people who are really upset that we didn't tank hard enough to get him. But like I don't know. I don't follow that kind of rule when I look at it, because like, man, you never really know. It's really hard to lose that many games in a season. But like, man,
well, it was all KP's fault. It's like everyone
that too.
Everyone wants to blame us for not taking hard enough, but like if he doesn't come out game busters, like averaging like 30 a night, like Breen mentioned in the game tonight, the first like 10 or 12 games, he was like putting up ridiculous numbers, and I think that season we were like 16 and 14 at Christmas. It's like you won too many games. There's no way you're going to be. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be in the top 5 if you win 16 games before Christmas.
That'd be like complaining. That'd be like if we drop out of the playoffs this year. That'd be like complaining that we didn't tank hard enough to get Kate.
Oh, that's what's going to happen.
We were in no position to get him. Like there was no realistic way to do it.
And the parallels are there, right? Because back then you wanted KP to be start hard because you wanted the draft pick to pay off, so you wanted to see him play well, right? This season, same thing. We wanted the Knicks. We were surprised how well the Knicks started. So I'm kind of with you, Kyle, on that mindset where you can't really say the team didn't tank well enough. Every season you want to try your best and get in there and win as many games early on.
Okay.
Yeah,
not every season.
It's a lost season.
Not every season.
I know.
If you're like where the Pistons are, where you have no real future, then at that point say, just whatever.
But if your young players are winning games, you'd rather have your young players win games. I guess the biggest problem with Knicks, right, with us that we've seen from our earlier front offices, the Knicks just end up grabbing a bunch of these mercenary vets, and that's what ends up winning the games for the Knicks a lot. But compared to this season and that KP season, it was more of, organic wins, I guess you can call it, where you wanted the team to get those wins because it was homegrown players. Even a bit now, we got some vets, but it was seeing that next step from Randall and things like that. But, these 3 losses, Knicks fans are always riding highs and feeling the lows. These 3 losses, I think, if we lose to Detroit, funny you brought up Detroit. If we lose to Detroit tomorrow night, Yeah, it's that the tank train is going to be full steam ahead, I think.
Well, hey,
And
there's some good news. There's some good news for the Detroit game tomorrow is that they will be getting back Killian Hayes.
I was just about to say
one of the
that.
worst
I was like
players.
everyone's favorite prospect. Killian Hayes is going to be back.
Hey,
Shout out
I
to
like him
Melo.
as a I like him as a prospect. I think he's got potential, but he's terrible now.
Yeah.
But that's
he's
the whole
like-
thing with the drafts, right? You just don't really know, right? You can watch highlight vids and you can kind of read up all you want on it, and you just never know when they step on the court. Do they get the OB deer in the headlights thing, or do they really balls, right? So you never.
The only thing you know is if the Knicks take a power forward at 8, he's going to be trashed. Michael Sweetney, Jordan Hill, and Obi Toppin.
No.
Well,
Knicks take a
crazy
player
thing,
at 8.
yeah, any player at 8. Well, that's the crazy
Or
thing
9.
is like all the draft journalists were like, yeah, Obi's going to be like a dominant offensive force, and just like none of that's happened. So it's not even like us amateur people were wrong. It's just like everyone was wrong. Like Zach Lowell was wrong. Like all those people were just like Obi should be in the running for Rookie of the Year. Da da da, and like.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was he was supposed to be like the favorite.
Yeah, I think the Vegas betting odds were like heavily favored to Obi, and it's like Vegas isn't wrong that often, and that's he's just been.
Yeah.
But to his credit, tonight is what I expected to see from him, like more regularly. Like I'm very proud, not proud, I guess that's too strong of a word, but I was really stoked. Like his first half minutes were really good. He hit a mid-range jumper, a couple layups at the rim, all that stuff. It was like, maybe there's a little silver lining in this horrible loss that maybe Obi's kind of starting to figure things out a little bit.
I hope that's it. But, the main difference between tonight and all the other nights for Obi is he just had aggression. He was aggressive. He wasn't thinking too much. You saw him get the ball. He was driving strong to the hoop. And one thing I have noticed about the dude is like, when he has a head of steam and he's going to the rim and he's determined to actually put the shot up and not kick it back out by getting shook, it actually converts, at a decent rate. He's
got good touch.
Yeah.
He's a good finisher.
Pretty good finisher.
Yeah.
So,
He just doesn't
hopefully.
get them.
Yeah.
He did airball a dunk layup earlier in the year. So
He did.
Yeah, okay. You're allowed a couple of those.
Yeah.
I think that
a
was a
couple of
confidence
airballs.
thing. That was a confidence thing and indecision. But I think once he makes his mind up that he's definitely going to shoot it, the touch is there. We just got to get him in some pick and rolls and get his confidence up, and we'll see what we have in time.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you watched tonight, like we weren't putting him in pick and rolls. Like we weren't setting him up. He was doing all that himself. He was creating all his own shots. So like that's even tonight, which was probably one of his best games of the year, we still weren't using him right. And so that just goes back to my whole thing about him. Is that why I've still been like hedging my bets, even though I've been saying, yeah, he plays terrible. Been hedging my bets and saying like, yeah, we're not playing to his strengths because we're playing him as essentially a force as a stretch 4 when that's not his game at all. He's more of a small ball center in terms of how he plays on offense.
So
the reason he can't do that is because he can't play that on defense. You need a guy who can like play the 5 on defense and stretch the floor for him to have him being the pick and roll. So it's just like he's there's also the issue of he's just an awkward fit on most rosters. It's just a whole it's a mess all around with him at this point. But good for him. He's kind of like slowly getting a little bit better. Maybe he's on that Pascal Siakam type improvement chain now. So maybe he can get there one day.
Maybe. Let me ask you guys, right? So heading into the season, we knew that Tibbs was going to be all defense, and there were criticisms about his offensive systems. How much do you think the Knicks' current offense is due to the personnel, and how much is it due to the reputation that Tibbs have of really not being a really, brilliant offensive head coach?
Do we have a system? Do we have an offensive system?
Good question.
I guess to answer that. Right.
Our system is give the ball to Randall, hope he scores. If not, hope he passes.
Because I'm looking at these scrub teams, and they're moving the ball like so much better than the Knicks.
Well, the thing is, if you study Tibbs, the offensive system is basically kind of like similar to Kentucky. It's dribble drive and kickouts.
Right.
That's pretty much all it is. Right now we're running it through, Randall, Elf, that's why he's in there because of the dribble drive. RJ,
Right, sure.
you know, it's not really predicated on like a motion offense or, you know, a ball sharing offense. You know, it's usually one dominant person, maybe two. You know, they take it to the hole, drawing the defense. Once it sucks in, he wants the ball to find the open man for the shooter. So I think, you know, the flaw that we have on the roster is we don't have any guard who is like, you know, excellent at the dribble drive, excellent with the court vision, but can also stick the jumper, you know, if you back up off of him. Once we get that, you know, we should see an uptick in the offense.
I see, and I think this is just like an issue with Tibbs overall is that if you're going to run that type of offense, you need like a prime Derrick Rose, you need like prime Russell Westbrook, or like even like John Morant would be good to run that. So I think the issue is that he just really hasn't been able to adapt his offense, and I think if you look at it, we actually kind of resemble how his offense looked in Minnesota. And if you remember his first year there, when they had before they traded for Butler, they had Levine, Cat, and Wiggins all scoring over 20 a night, and they were like the youngest trio to ever do that. So his offense is very top heavy. He doesn't really get the role players involved as much. So like you say, it's not really like a motion offense, which is the modern trend. So I think that is something that, you know, it can work, but you do need the right personnel, and we do not have the right personnel to do that. So Tibbs needs to be a little more flexible, but we also do need to have more than just one off season before passing any judgment on that.
I think
and RJ's just kind of hit a wall a little bit, you know, to be honest. RJ was playing pretty well. He had a lot of good games in the last few games. He's been hitting kind of a wall, which is kind of expected, right? And like to your point, he's still young, you know, he's still a young player. He still has room to improve. But yeah, if it's the top heavy offense and you have Julius Randle's our really only prime player, but then you have a young player and RJ who's still up and coming, and then our third best player is Derrick Rose, who's a washed up Derrick Rose. You know, it's sad to say he still has some moments, but you know, right now, hopefully, like you guys said, it's just the COVID. You know, he's trying to work his way back into his conditioning. But really, like the sad thing to see is Alec Burks has been our only consistent fourth quarter player. And if Alec Burks is your fourth quarter, you know, savior, you're not going to win that many games, man. It's tough. It's, you know, it's a lack of offense, but it's also the personnel just isn't there in order to make his offense successful.
So I'm going to bring it back here. So my fun fact for tonight, you guys know I love to complain about Alfred's layup issues and how he can't finish at the rim. You know that Derrick Rose is shooting 40% on layups this year?
I was going to,
40%. I'm pretty sure it's lower than, because that was before tonight. I'm pretty sure it's lower now. Yeah, I don't think he made I don't think he made a layup tonight. But
he was not good at the rim.
Yeah. And
yeah,
again,
I don't think it was.
Yeah, and like again, to tie it back to what I was just saying, when you're going to run the system that Tibbs runs, you need guys who can finish at the rim. Rose can't do that. Payne can't do that. Quick absolutely cannot do that. So it's like
the floaters abandoned him completely.
Yeah,
you just got
like quickly
even with the floater, you can't finish at the rim. Like
I mean, quickly takes floaters during the layup line in the pregame. I mean, the dude just cannot make a conventional layup.
He hit a mid-range shot tonight. That was the first time I think I've ever seen hit a mid-range shot that wasn't a floater. I was just like, oh man, like mark this down. Like this is an impressive moment in his career.
I think the banner.
But he did have a drive to the basket once tonight. That looked pretty good.
I bet you it wasn't a layup though.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, probably not.
It didn't go in. It didn't go in because he only hit 2 shots. He only hit a 3-pointer and that mid-range jumper.
Yeah. You know what?
It can't be a layup if you missed it.
You know what? He's got to. I think he's got to knock it off with trying to draw fouls.
Yeah,
because it's throwing. You know, it's throwing off.
He's a rook. He's a rook. You're not going to get all those calls. It was really good when it started, right? And I think now you're like to your point, he's relying on that way too much. And as a rook, you're not going to get all that respect. And sometimes we've seen him where he even just chucks some wild threes. It didn't happen this game, but I think it was last game or 2 games ago. He's chucking wild threes trying to get the contact. Dude, you're a rook. It's not going to happen for you. Take it hard to the hole, earn your fouls, you know, and then you can play smart and ease into it. But yeah, it's been tough and. Yeah, I mean, this was a game, I think, you know, he played down the stretch. Last game, we wanted him to play down the stretch with a couple of us instead of having Elf in there. You know, this time he did play down the stretch, and, you know, it just didn't really matter. So it's just, Yeah, it was a tough one. 3.5 good quarters followed by 4 bad, a bad fourth quarter there to end it. But
well, that was the game against the Wolves too. It was 3.5 quarters
Yep.
of good basketball, and then all of a sudden, then the bottom just completely fell out. It's just like
Yep.
I think this team is just running out of steam.
Yeah.
I think we've been playing over our heads, and we're running out of steam, and it's like a combination of the two things. And it's like, I want to partially blame Tibbs for playing people a lot of minutes, but also at the same time, is people have been banged up. It's like we haven't really had like a full roster of people, and I really can't compare it to everybody else in the league because I don't know what their injury issues are. But we very rarely have everybody available, and like again tonight, it's like obviously Mitch is going to be out for months, but this is like the closest we've had to a full roster in 6-8 weeks or so.
Well, I don't know, man. I think we've been one of the more fortunate teams because, other teams have had a lot of games, had to be rescheduled over COVID and stuff like that. And we really didn't get hit with the whole COVID thing until the second half when Derrick Rose got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The first half we did pretty well, keeping everybody safe and healthy. So we're starting to get a little nicked up in the second half, but I think it all evened out. So, we stayed pretty much strong first half. The law of averages is catching us on the second half. But, before we move on, I do want to give Kyle his flowers because I know that's why he brought it up. And he did warn all of us when we were getting Rose. He was like, yo, this guy can't finish. The number says he can't finish at the rim. So shout out to Kyle, man.
Yep. Hey, I wanted to hope that was just a Detroit thing where he didn't care, but it's really as even tonight, it was so bad tonight, man. The dude, I want to hope it's just he has no energy from COVID, but man, I still think he's our best point guard.
Yeah,
despite
by
that.
far.
Yeah, maybe.
But, oh man, it's kind of rough sometimes. Been I'm pretty sure I wasn't even alive the last time we had a solid point guard starting for us.
Marbury.
I was gonna say Starbury.
Marbury.
Isn't it Jeremy
On
Lin?
a good team. On a good team.
Lin Sanity.
Too. Yeah, Lin.
Well,
Lin
even
for 3
to
weeks.
be honest, well, I can't count Insanity because what was that? 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you really want to if you want to talk a sustained period, I can't even say the '90s Knicks because no offense to Charlie Ward and Derek Harper, but Harper was at the end of his career, and Ward is just basic. So really, since Clyde.
Yeah. I would say Felton.
You got Mark Jackson, Rod Strickland, maybe.
I would say Felton was solid. The 2012-2013 season.
One season, yeah.
Yeah, but then he got fat.
Give me Pablo Prigioni. You know what? Give me Pablo. He was steady. Him and old ass Jason.
This is how sad it is. We're talking about Pablo Prigioni, man.
Yeah,
Pablo. Hey, we saw him last game. He's on the Timberwolves bench.
Today is the anniversary of when Melo dropped 50 on the Heat and he didn't score at the rim once. And so that got me thinking because you mentioned Pablo Prigioni, and I watched one of the highlight videos of that today. And I see Pablo run into the corner as Melo hits a mid-range shot. So I was just thinking about that team.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. But yeah, I mean, this game was something else. Coke, I'm gonna swing it over to you. Give us your scrub of the night for this one, man.
All right, you know exactly where I'm going, man. No love, no love at all. It's going to the imposter KP. I don't say the real KP because there's only one KP in New York, and that's Kenny Payne.
Yeah.
So, Chris, he comes back. This is supposed to be his revenge game. He plays straight shook in the first half. It's like the crowd, was in his chest. He was scared to death. I think he airballed his first 3. He was getting pushed around by Nerlens Noel, a guy who weighs 200 pounds with bricks in his pocket.
Yep.
And he couldn't really physically dominate him in the paint. Let's look at the numbers, man. I know he had a decent third quarter, you know what I'm saying? But still, overall, stat line's pretty ugly. 14 points, 6 of 17, 1 for 7 from 3, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks. I don't care. Scrub of the night. Kristaps Porzingis, aka Mr. Bean with blonde hair. Facts.
He had an alley oop and another shot he hit in garbage time too. So he was definitely 4 of 15 at one time. Yeah, he was
He was
really
trash.
bad.
He was
Hang-
1
hang
for
on a second,
7 in
hang
the
on a
first
second.
quarter and 2 of 10 at halftime, and 0 of 6 from 3. He didn't get much going until the second half there when the Knicks started getting tired. So yeah, the crowd was in his head that whole first half. You know, the air ball, the KP sucks chance. I was loving it, but
Hang on,
unfortunately,
then we
didn't work out.
collapsed.
Hang on a second. Coke. Who's
What's
Mr.
up?
Bean? I've never heard of him. Did he play
Oh,
for the Knicks or some other
no.
team? I don't know
Yo.
who's that.
Check the Twitter, man. Go look at the visual and come back and tell me you don't look like KP. Go check my Twitter feed, man. For anybody who doesn't have the Twitter, man, it's NYC Coke at NYC COKE.
That's true though.
Might as well get that Twitter plug in. But
Yep.
we're talking about a little bit of depth right now, depth issues for the Knicks with Mitch Robinson out. The Knicks did make a signing, Norvell Pell. You know, somebody the Knicks, some of us fans wanted to see, needed to address the issue there at the depth. Give us your thoughts on that signing, guys.
I think you've talked about him more than he's going to play for us.
You know what? I'm actually a fan. He is what he is. He's second string, third string guy. But he's an energy guy, right? He's kind of the guy that would fit what Tibbs wants. A guy that can block some shots, defend, run the floor a little bit. I mean, he's kind of. I mentioned on one of the threads. He's kind of like a cross between Noel and Mitch, right? Obviously, not as savvy, not as good as either guy in their strength areas, but I mean, he's going to be that type of guy. He brings energy. He plays a little bit more physical. He's got better hands than Noel, so hopefully he can finish some plays at the basket. I mean, he's just an energy guy. I don't expect him to play more than maybe a couple of minutes here and there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, unless somebody gets injured, right? I think he was brought in just in case one of these two guys gets injured, and the chances of that happening are probably pretty good. Right.
Especially with Noel, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's only on a 10-day deal, so he's really not.
Just in case.
I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back again and just sign him for the season.
Yeah, it's probably like some like mystical cap saving move by Brock Aller that I can't even begin to understand. But I think he's just a warm body. He's just there like break glass case for emergency.
Right.
Like
right.
if we're playing him more than if we play him more than Theo Pinson minutes, we're in trouble.
He did pretty good in Philly. Philly guys actually liked him a lot, the fans. So
I got a fun stat for Norvell.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what it is? 2, meaning he got cut 2 times this year alone.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
That's not promising, man.
Yep.
That's not promising.
Didn't Michael Jordan get cut from his junior varsity team?
Oh,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm surprised you know who Michael Jordan is.
The only silver lining with that is he got cut from the 2 best teams in the East, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the only silver lining you can take with him. But
I've never seen him play. I don't know anything about him. I hope he can catch more balls than Noel.
I think all of us can.
Yeah, it's not hard to do.
Yeah, Noel seems like that type of person that just like grew really tall and it was just like kind of like lanky and uncoordinated his whole life, and he just happens to be 7 foot, so it's just like he gets to go to the NBA because of that.
Yeah, must be nice.
If Noel had decent hands,
he would
great. Actually be a pretty good big.
Yeah.
Because he's athletic as hell.
Right.
I don't know if you guys noticed lately, like he's been like doing some drives, cutting to the hoop and swooping layups. I kind of like the athleticism and the dexterity. He's going with both hands. He just can't catch the ball. Like if he could catch the ball, he'd be a decent decent center.
And he's got a fat check.
Yeah, he's got bad knees too. He's got bad knees. That's why I think they don't play him that many minutes.
Wasn't he supposed? You're supposed to be like a really like good defensive prospect coming out of college.
Right.
I think I remember like his rookie year. I forget what it was. It might have been he was the first player since Hakeem to get more than 1.5 steals and 1.5 blocks per game.
He was great. He was great when he was
something like that. So I think like what it is he did have like great defensive potential, but he just went from bad situation to bad situation, and like he was always getting injured too. So I think you are kind of seeing like, man, this is some of the potential he had coming out, and you just never realized it.
Yeah, because I
True.
mean, he creates a ton of turnovers. He's like always like poke. That's why it's so like flabbergasting that he can pick people's pockets on defense, but you ask him to catch a rebound on the offensive end of the floor, and it's just like
Hey,
but
wacky
Jim,
inflatable arm
the
flailing.
stone
Man.
hands are good for that. The
But
stone
Jim,
hands are good for
yeah,
that
like-
because you just like slam it in there and it just bounces
Pops
right
out,
off.
right?
You know,
Yeah,
if he had like soft hands to catch rebounds, it would like he wouldn't be able to poke it away as much.
Yeah, you ever
Yeah,
hit a brick with a basketball? The basketball, you know what I'm saying?
It bounces off real
Knock
nicely.
it right out of there.
Oh
Oh,
man,
man.
we need some
I mean-
upgrades. I hope.
Off season,
like-
let's hope for something.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the only
We should
chance
have
we got right
six-
now, right?
Yeah.
We should have $60 million. I mean, if you can't do it with that, I don't know what it's going to take.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if like the bottom falls out, if like the perception is still the same. If like say we only end up winning like 30 games when everything's all said and done. Like say like we really struggle in the next month and a half. Like, will it still be like, ooh, the Knicks are up and coming, or will it be like, well, they completely fell apart? What do you guys think?
I think we've garnered enough respect. No one expected us to do what we've done. If the bottom does fall out, I think, if anything, we've built some positive equity in people's mind. We're no longer like the butt of jokes. Every team that plays us, even if we don't get the win, you always see them like dapping, key players up at the end of the night and, putting gems in their ear or saying in the post game that, this was like the most physical team that they played and they felt our presence. So, I think all of those things would show itself in the offseason, even if the bottom falls out. Somebody might look at it like, hey, they're one or two pieces away, and I think I'm one of those pieces.
If we go 6-17 to end the season, yeah, I'd be pretty disappointed with that as well. We got 23 games left. That'll be kind of pretty bad to end the year. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but it is a tough schedule going on. We got Detroit tomorrow, which we'll get into in a bit, but then Brooklyn, Boston, you got Memphis, Toronto, then the Lakers.
Right.
And I don't think LeBron and them are coming back. So, two winnable games there, maybe one against Boston because they've been kind of up and down as well as Toronto. But we see Dallas again later this month as well. So, we'll see how it goes.
I feel like most of our schedule outside of the Brooklyn game is like they're all like kind of winnable games.
Yeah, I was looking at it. It's not as bad as I think the perception is.
Yeah,
Then
I
again,
thought it was horrible, but
Yeah.
Well, so
Hey,
you talk about like if we finish the season off with only like 30 wins, and yeah, it kind of sounds like there's no way we do that, but I don't think that's unprecedented. If you remember, in 2015, we started the year off 22-22,
yeah,
and then we
Dad
finished
Mello
32-50. Yeah, and that was, and if you remember, that was the year where like, no, sorry, that was 2016. My bad. That was the year where like, we were playing way over our heads on defense, and like we had like some guys catch fire, and we had Mello. So I think there are some parallels there. I don't think we're gonna finish with only 30 wins. God, I hope not. That would be kind of the worst. But I think there are some reasons to say, hey, maybe we're gonna.
I got 5 letters for you. THIBS. Tibbs. His presence alone, you know what I'm saying?
I think
he's
so.
not gonna let that happen. Like, I don't know like how much you guys remember, but just watching a Nick, general. I don't even want to call him a coach. I call him a general because like during a game, he's like barking out calls when they're on defense and like you can hear it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the best part about having no fans in the stands is that you can just hear Tim screaming for like the whole game.
Oh, here's that.
I pointed it out to my fiance. I was just like, you hear that? I'm like, that's the coach screaming on the sidelines.
So
the thing about that, though,
they're going to be motivated to at least win like a fair share of games just because of that.
But the thing about that is that it really only takes one really bad slide for people to start tuning him out. It's one of those things where like it really only works when we're winning, and if we really start losing, if we win like we go like 2-8 or something like that, they're gonna start to tune him out. So it's one of those things where like you're right. But it's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario where we have to win in order for players to listen to Tibbs, which will cause them to win, which will make him listen, and it just keeps going over and over. So.
Yo, Coke, so I don't know if you've seen our boy Davion Mitchell is moving up in the mock draft. So I don't want to get too off topic, but Jonathan Wasserman had a mock draft today and had him at like 11 or 12.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
So I'm like,
is he the one that had Killian Hayes number 1?
Yeah, there was no. That was Ringer guy, but he was
Ringer
the
guy.
one. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin O'Connor. But Wasserman kept saying in interviews about how like the draft journos were like way higher on Hayes than the actual front office people were. So like I definitely like trust him on like info from the front office as compared to like his analysis in general, because like he was like spot on with that. It's like clearly everyone else was way higher on Killian Hayes than the actual NBA guys were.
Well, I always thought his projection was like 6 to 8. So the fact he went 7 is like, that's right where I expected.
I saw him like mocked like in the like late lottery like 14-15 range too. I don't know if that was Wasserman's mocks or not, but like I definitely saw him in the teen range though.
I think that's the low end. That's definitely the low end.
Yeah.
I think anyone saying he was like top 3 was out of their minds. Like,
yeah.
No.
I know we got the Pistons coming up, but I want to just pivot away from Killian Hayes for a second and just get back to what Wasserman said about Mitchell. As far as the Knicks go, I hope he does go higher. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's only but so many guards that can go early in the draft. So the higher guys, who are like older, veteran, like seniors or juniors go, then that pushes guys who have a little higher ceiling down to where the Knicks may fall in like the late teens or early 20s. And I'm talking about guys like Zaire Williams. I'm talking about guys like Book Knight. That's Kyle's boy. I think he goes to school with the dude.
Yeah.
And also I know people are getting on his ass right now, but I still got to say Moses Moody is going to be a fine NBA player because he can shoot. He's 6'6", legit, and he has a 7'1" wingspan, and he doesn't, require a ton of usage. So if any of those 3 wings fell because Mitchell, bumped up, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, apparently, like both Draft Express and Bleacher Report have Book Knight like fallen through the floor, which I'm kind of surprised. Like I didn't see anything in his games. Like I guess he came back from injury and wasn't as great. But
I can explain this one. So as someone who's watched probably every single game he's played at UConn over the last 2 years, what teams are going to see is that he's a scorer, and that's basically it. Mm-hmm. He's not a great playmaker. He does keep the ball moving, but he doesn't create for others. He does okay on defense, but he's not great at it. He's an okay athlete. He's really not great. And he really has – he's not a – and this was something that, like, just as a UConn fan, I was concerned about going into the tourney is he's not great at creating for himself off the dribble either.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So he's one of those guys who's like – he's very – He's good at a lot of things. He's not really great at any of them. I don't think he has a major weakness. He doesn't really have any major strengths. And so I've always compared him to Jeremy Lamb, which I know another UConn guy coming out. But Lamb's just the kind of guy who's like he's just kind of good all around. He can be your 5th starter, or he can be a really good bench player. And so I think that's what people are kind of like looking at when they see Book Knight. And so it's going to be on him to improve his handle, improve his off the dribble game, improve his playmaking. If he can do that, then he'll justify being picked in the top 10. But if not, then he's more of a late lottery.
Yep. Moo, what's your thoughts? I feel like you want to jump in here.
Yeah. I think that's with a lot of these guys, the big question is the college game and the NBA game. Yeah, and what is their strength in college? What do they do? What are the things that make them impact players in college? And how does that actually translate into the NBA, right? So I've had, there's been a lot of players where they were great shooters in college, but because it's several factors. Big reason is a slow release, right? That's the killer for college shooters when you make the switch to the NBA, because you're not going to get the space, right? You're not going to get the space and the time to get your shot off. You're going to have to make shots quickly before the defenders can get to you. College, with the way the games are played, I mean, you can find an opening, right? So, and that kind of goes with scorers too, is how well can you score? If your mentality is a scorer in college, and that's what you are, your number one option in college. What is your transition into the NBA? What is your role into the NBA? Can you adjust to it? Can you adjust to being a secondary, tertiary, player, a bench player? That's the biggest question I have with a lot of college shooters, college scorers, is do they do anything else, right? That's why I'm more interested in guys that show some one skill, right? The reality is most of the guys that get drafted, they're not going to be stars, right? They're going to be role players. So what can they do that actually would fit a role on a lot of teams? So that's kind of usually what I do when I look at the guys that fall later on in the draft, is what specifically can they do at the NBA level, whether it's defend, whether it's to shoot, any of those things. So I'm usually concerned about college scorers, unless they're just elite, right? There's some guys you just know, hey, they're not going to have any problems in the NBA as well.
Well,
so I'm kind
of hold on one second. With Book Night, I think there is one thing that we're missing that he can, that he can definitely do, and that's finish. And I don't mean finish above the rim. I just mean finish, off the glass, finish amongst the trees, finish in traffic. He has, he puts great English on the ball. He can play amongst the trees. And something that I look at when, putting guys through the eye test is usually, to show that you're going to be able to finish in the NBA and play amongst bigs, I got to see how you like contact. And the stat I look at is rebounds. It's not an offensive stat, but Book Night shows that he's going to compete down low against, amongst the bigs on both sides of the ball as far as rebounding and as far as, finishing inside. That usually translates because it shows he has something in his shirt that the other guys don't have, and that's hard.
You got that. You got the bite and the bark, right? That you're gonna have to be able to do that when you hit the NBA, right? Some guys, they're used to doing whatever they want from the scoring standpoint. They hit the NBA, they can't make the same kind of passes with the same kind of scores, and they kind of give up, right? We see a lot of guys that just basically say, "Oh, this is too hard. I'm gonna settle. I'm gonna accept it." I think what you're saying is right. Book Night is he has that certain something that says, you know what, I don't really care if I'm not the fastest or can't jump the highest, right? So I agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised that Kyle says that he's not a plus NBA athlete, because I definitely think he is a plus. I feel like we're getting way off topic now, but
he's good. He's good, but not great. Right. He's one of those guys that he'll be able to hang with NBA athletes, but he's not gonna jump out the gym.
He's a smooth athlete. That's what he is. He's smooth.
Yeah. I've seen him explode to the rim and dunk on some people. I thought that was kind of impressive. But maybe I'm off the. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
He's like I say, when I say he's good at basically everything. I mean, he's good at everything. I don't think there's a huge weakness in his game. But I do, well, like Moose says, you want to find a guy who has that one great thing that he does, or one or two great things. And so that's the whole thing with Book Night is, if you're going to be a guy that's good at everything, you need to be really, really good at everything in order to be, hang around. So I do, like I say, he is my guy. I do root for him a lot. I want to see him improve, but that's where I got to be this is what you need to do. This is where your area is that you need to work on. But the other guy that I'm interested in, I know you guys talked about Davion Mitchell, is I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this. I think Sharif Cooper fits what Tibbs wants to do. He's not very good. Again, he's not very good at it, but that's why he's going at the end of the
You got everybody disagreeing with you, Kyle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was some good conversation about the draft. We were looking a little bit too far into the future and a nice preview for the potential draft show, but let's reel it in a little bit and get more towards the immediate future. Let's look into the game tomorrow night. And what do you guys think? Coke, I'll start off with you. We got the Pistons on a back-to-back. Dennis Smith Jr., give us your thoughts, your predictions on this one.
Slice. If we don't beat the Pistons, man. If we don't beat the Pistons, man. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think I need to say nothing else. If we don't beat the Pistons.
Yeah,
we all said that before the Timberwolves game too, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, at least the Timberwolves have Towns. At least they have I'm gonna scare quote it. Here, let me get it in the frame. Air quote superstar on their team. But yeah, if we better win this game. Otherwise, I'm going to put on the movie Patton, and I'm just going to watch some tanks drive around for a little while, because that's probably what's going to need to happen if we lose to the Pistons. Is we need to try to bottom out.
So if we lose to the Pistons, in that closet behind me there is a big old bottle of Fireball.
Ugh.
I'm gonna break that out, and I'm gonna be trashed by the end of the podcast.
So you mean you're gonna be Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
All of us will do it.
I thought I performed great.
All of us will do it. I mean, that's the thing, right? The Wolves, they have talent. So if you get them on a bad night, they can beat you. The Pistons, they've got nothing. I don't know who's their top scorer. How many points is it? Oh,
Jeremy Grant, probably, yeah.
I think
is Dennis Smith Jr. still playing?
Yeah, I think he's been doing okay, right?
That's how little I mean,
define
the teams
okay
outside of the Knicks.
Better than with the Knicks.
He's getting
he's getting right?
He's
the last game I checked, he didn't play. So I don't know.
He didn't play last game.
He got a DMP, and they won by 29. So take from that what you will.
Oh my God, he's out of the rotation.
Oh
God.
Josh Jackson dropped a solid 31 points.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're not going to be getting many more. You're not going to be getting many more late night texts from Melo there, Coke.
Facts. I was just going to say that. You hear that, Melo? He's riding the bench over there too. Time to find.
Hey, good for Jeremy Grant though, scoring 23 a game. Pretty solid efficiencies, and he's good on defense too.
Yeah, who'd have thought that?
Yeah, that's surprising.
Good for him.
Yeah, Josh Jackson was another guy that I thought was going to be really good that ended up not being really good.
Fell off a cliff.
Here's the thing about Josh Jackson, right? Is like I always bring him up because whenever we talk about people say like, oh, we should have traded KP in 2017 for for whatever Phoenix was offering, whatever, and people are like, oh, we would have been in position to draft, Jason Tatum or whatever. I'm like, nah, we would have drafted Josh Jackson with that pick, man.
Yep.
Like, I mean, yeah, like if we traded KP to draft Jason Tatum, that's a great trade. We wouldn't have did that.
Right.
So
yeah, Phil, I mean, like I thought he kind of looked like Scotty, Josh Jackson, so I'm sure Phil was thinking the same thing. And that would be a disaster.
I was surprised Tatum got taken over him at the draft time. So, that shows you what I know.
Yeah.
That's just how much of a crapshoot the draft is, right?
Yep.
Everybody can sit there and scout these talents, scout these college players, but it's just a crapshoot sometimes.
Yep.
But
then we were all arguing over Frank versus Dennis when it was really Donovan Mitchell all along.
Yeah. There was only like one or two people in those draft threads that were like into Donovan Mitchell, so he wasn't even like really like talked about that much.
But you know what? I'm a Louisville guy, and he wasn't as good as he is now. In Louisville, you just couldn't tell. But part of it was because at Louisville he was playing a specific role. Right? He wasn't asked to score. He was asked to defend and make sure everybody else gets involved. And now in the NBA he shows that he can score too. So yeah, I think that was where he was picked. I mean, that wasn't a surprise. I think that's where most people thought he would get picked.
So basically, what you're saying is, get rid of the draft and just randomly assign players to teams. It'll work out about as well.
Yeah.
As long as we don't get the 8th pick, right?
Yeah.
That's the curse.
It's the curse spot.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think we only ended up getting one prediction before we just went off the rails to Dennis Smith Jr. started going off over there. So, Moo, I'll switch it to you. Give us your prediction for the next one.
I'm going to go with a win. I can't see them losing this, even if they're all injured. The Pistons are just an awful low-talent team, right? And the Knicks, I think, even with Jeremy Grant, I mean, after him, I mean, there's really nothing. If Josh Jackson has another, a 30-point game, I mean, it's over. I'll join you guys. I have a couple of bottles in the closet too. I might as well just show up all. But yeah, I'll go with the Knicks. I think they'll win under 10 points, just the way things are. I think they'll win.
Yeah, I'm gonna go big vote of confidence.
I'm gonna go with a win too. I'm gonna go with a win too, just because I don't think we tried that hard tonight. Like I feel like people probably played a lot of minutes. I haven't looked at the box score, but like I feel like we didn't really put in maximum effort. So the fact that it's like a back to back, I don't think is gonna be too concerning. And the fact that we were bricking shots, I'm like hopeful that everyone stayed after in the gym to shoot.
Mhm.
Like RJ and Randall, I'm looking at you guys. Go back to the gym.
Yep.
You better be in Madison Square Garden. The encore is on right now, but I know you're not really out there, so you better be out there shooting some hoops. But I think we're gonna win. Detroit's terrible, and yeah, that's it.
And I don't make predictions, man. I just hope we don't lose. That'd be
That's a prediction.
That'd be the end of it for me. Hey, that's not a prediction. That's a hope.
Okay. All right.
That's a hope and a prayer.
All right.
Kyle, we'll get one. We'll get one more prediction out of you. But
Hey,
I think we're all.
I won the bet. I don't gotta make predictions anymore this year. Come back next year.
Come back next year. Nah, but I think we're all in the same boat. I think we all expect to win, want to win, think we'll get a win. But as we see in the last few games, man, the only thing I don't want to see is 40 minutes of good basketball followed by 8 minutes of utter trash.
Yep.
I think that's the thing that we can all agree on. We're sick of seeing it. We don't want to see it. And Detroit is a team that the Knicks should beat, especially with how the season's been going. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, there's really not much more I could say. The team better win and do what they're supposed to do. And this is another game where Tibbs is going to be showing his worth as a coach. Can you rally the troops? Can you get your young players and your bench players, and your stars, because our stars have been struggling? Can you get them all to right the ship? So let's just hope the quick turnaround time doesn't play in a factor and we get the win. But, let's wrap it up here, fellas. Again, Coke, I'll swing it over to you. Give us your final thoughts, man.
Well, at the end of the day, man, we just gotta try to get our legs back. Don't know if we can or how, but collectively the team needs a second win. We got to get our stuff together. And at the end of the day, offensively, we got to get back to sharing the ball. The offense is just way too stagnated. Everything is a grind.
Right.
I know Randall's probably hurt. Hopefully with some time, he heals up a little bit. He can get back to first half Randall where he was a little more efficient, functioning more down low in the paint, taking better shots. Hopefully RJ, gets back to when he had a better shooting touch and he was hitting his jumpers. And hopefully that'll get us right. If not, hey, we're playing with house money. Let's lose, get back to, draft talk, get back in the lottery, and hopefully, everything works out and we end up not with that 8th pick.
We have to hit shots. However that needs to happen. Whether use your arms more or something like that. If your legs are tired, I know that's not bad. I'm glad I'm not a basketball trainer, because that's bad advice. But yeah, at the end of the day, we have to hit shots. We can't score. We can't put up like whatever we put up tonight, 88 points or something like that. That's garbage.
Against a bad defensive team.
A bad defensive team, like what's the league average now? Like 108, 110, and it's like we've struggled to hit 100 the last few nights, and they didn't even play that much zone, so we don't really have that many excuses.
Yeah.
So we got to find a way to hit shots. That's my final thought.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of a bad team masquerading as a good team, overachieving by playing good defense. And you saw it tonight what can happen when you don't play, okay offense to complement that.
Right.
I just think we just need to rest up, get healthy, and hit some more shots. Find a way to get our guys to score. I'm surprised that we hung in with them for so long when Randall wasn't scoring, but it kind of shows you if Randall's off, we ain't gonna do much.
Right.
So just I don't know. I don't know if we probably won't be able to fix these issues until the offseason. So let's just see where we go.
Moo, what you got for us, man?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Kyle, right? You can see it, right? Like I said earlier, they work so hard, and for 40 minutes usually, right? And it's hard to see that it's sustainable. I mean, I'm amazed that they can have sustained it so far, right? You just hope for the best, right? Maybe at some point, Randall will catch a second wind. Barrett should be young enough. I think Barrett's the one that's probably fine, and maybe he can step up. He's still, what is he, 22 still? So off nights, kind of 20.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So he's got, he's gonna have off nights, but he actually looks like he's fine physically, right? I was watching him defend Luka, and he was all over the place. It's just a lot of times his shots don't fall, and he makes bad decisions. But I think maybe featuring him a little bit more in certain spots. And seeing what I think I said this before, he's a good facilitator, right? But tonight, how many assists did he have? 1?
0.
0?
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, I mean that's not acceptable. So they need to figure out how do you get him to facilitate so that it takes some of that pressure off of Randall, right? Because right now they're right. Julius and RJ are their 2 point guards, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Just to be fair to RJ though, he is a little
Yeah.
banged up too. He was on the injury report today.
Yeah.
Oh, was he really? Okay.
Yeah, he almost didn't play.
Well, he looked pretty good. He looked, to me, it was pretty. His legs were pretty strong, and he was defending well. So
Yeah, I mean, he moved well. The only thing that I was kind of hoping to see from him was a little bit more action when Anthony Edwards called him out and saying, in the post-game interview last game, and said that he was the one that they wanted to have the ball and taking that final shot.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see more from him, but yeah, I mean, just to wrap it up for me, another frustrating loss for the Knicks, man.
Yeah.
Just again, 40 minutes of good basketball followed up, about 40 minutes of good basketball followed just by 8 pitiful minutes. Losing to Luka and the Mavs, man. We were expecting more of a battle for sure. Especially I think everybody was hyped up for the Randall and KP battle. Ended up just being a battle of who could be the worst player on the court tonight for the most of the game, But yeah, just a struggle offensively for the team outside of Burks, who is really the only one. But as we said, the Knicks better turn it around quick as they fly out to Detroit for the quick game tomorrow night. And this is a game that we hate saying a must-win game early on, but 50th game of the season, it's a must-win for the morale of the team and the direction of where the team's going to go. But
right.
We thank everybody for tuning into this edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast. You guys finally got to see what we look like, but we'll catch you guys in less than 24 hours, man. We out.
Yep.
It's no blood, no foul. 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 Emotions spill on the court when you proud. To rep your city, New York's the hometown. Playgrounds prepare me for them.
So Jim, are we good?
And we're good now.
All right, cool.